Just a minute. Is it better?
Yeah.
Good evening, all of you. Thank you so much for joining in. This is Brijesh Dalmia from Master Store, and today is Monday, 12th of December, 6 p.m. And we have with us our special guest today, Mr. Aashish Sommaiyaa, who happens to be a good friend, old friend. And thank you so much, Aashish, for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Wonderful. So we were all looking forward to this talk, and even though it's a Monday evening, a lot of people have joined in, and we will also share the video later on the YouTube, where probably thousands of people will watch this interview. And we have a lot to learn from this talk. I'm pretty sure about that. So Aashish, I want to kick off by asking you this. Did you ever imagine in your life you will reach here? If yes, the reasons, and if not, what made you reach here?
No, so, to be honest, actually, first of all, I don't think I personally don't think that I have reached or arrived anywhere at all. But even if you consider that, okay, I am part of the asset management industry and I work with a, solid team, and whatever stage of career that I am in, I don't think I imagined actually, because a lot of times what happens is that when you ask someone that, whatever you are doing, how did you get here? A lot of times people give very scientific explanation step by step. And, so I think life is a series of coincidences and unplanned moves. But in hindsight, it is always put as a very systematic, well-planned journey. So I don't think there is anything which is systematic and well-planned. And, I think it is always, series of things which happens, and it's just a question of wherever you land up, how do you respond to that and what type of opportunities you pick up.
So Aashish, most of us know you from the ICICI days, and then the Motilal days, and now the White Oak. Will you be kind enough to take us through your early life, how you started, and what made you join the AMC industry? What did you do before that? And what were the challenges and struggles that you faced?
So in terms of early life, I'm a Gujarati. We belong to, the area of Rajkot, Porbandar, that side, Saurashtra. It used to be a separate state. Then it got merged with Gujarat. So belong to that place. But I've never lived there. I love going there, but I've never lived there. I was born and brought up in Mumbai. In my early days, I can tell you funny things. Like, for example, I'm a qualified engineer. I'm a chemical engineer, and I've specialized in polymer science. But, a lot of people, they say that, in our country, now I'm 47, but when I was younger, there was only engineer, doctor, chartered accountant, or public sector employee. So I became an engineer, but when I was since I was 3 years old, I used to tell my elder sister, that I'll be an engineer. But when I was 3 years old, I thought that the person who drives the train engine is actually called an engineer. So I became an engineer for the wrong reason. And then, so aise bolte, I just became an engineer. But then when I became an engineer, in our country, there was no computer science, was not the big field. So when I became an engineer, that was before computer science became a hot field. And at that time, engineers in our country were paid very, 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 very poorly. Right. So my first salary was 3,000 rupees per month in 1997 after my engineering. So I thought, isme to kuch nahi hoga, because I had responsibility. I was brought up by my mother and sister. My father unfortunately passed away when I was about 12, 13 years old. He used to work in State Bank of India. I met with an accident. And then, to run the family, my mother took up a compensatory job in State Bank. She was a clerk in State Bank. So in those days, I could have worked, and But I think with that salary, my sister told me that, till the time I am paying for your education, why don't you study more? So that's how I did my post-graduation in finance. So I passed out in 2000. And, really, if you ask me why I said it's a series of coincidences, is because in 1998, when I joined my B school, the mutual fund industry did not go to campus to recruit. In fact, I found a job as a summer trainee, and then I worked hard and I got absorbed. And then my company started going to campus and hiring my
Which was that
classmates.
company?
Now it is ICICI Prudential. That time it was Prudential ICICI.
Okay, right.
So I found them and told them. My sister actually helped me to connect with someone and said that my brother wants to be a summer trainee. So they never went to campus. Actually, I found that training, and then I worked there, and then I got absorbed, and then because they were happy with me, they hired more people from the campus, and then it became very normal for going to campus. So yeah, so that's how I got into the industry. But actually, I definitely cannot say that it was well planned.
Nice. So from ICSA to Motilal to White Oak, and from 3000 to XXXX, whatever is the journey. So मैं ऑडियंस को ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि आप कहीं भी हो, उसका कोई रिलेशनशिप नहीं है कि आप कहाँ जा सकते हो. Am I right, Ashish?
Absolutely.
So first job 3,000 rupees, and today you are the CEO of White Oak, the new entrant of the mutual fund industry, and you successfully led ICSA as well as Motilal in different capacities. So sky is the limit if you work hard and have a large vision. Ashish, I recently read about that article of yours in which you talk about your train journey in Mumbai, that because to avoid the rush, you took the train from Goregaon to Borivali so that you can get a. Can you talk about that and what were the challenges and which many people are not aware of in terms of if you have to be successful, if you have to reach somewhere, you have to probably make an effort, and the challenges will always be there.
Yeah, so I was actually trying to relate. See, what happens is that when people invest, I have observed that everybody is actually a long-term investor. But when you tell someone to invest, and when they sign the form, they are a long-term investor. But even though they are long-term investor, everybody has one condition, that if I have invested today, then from tomorrow onwards, the market has to go up. And if somebody has said that it is 12% compounded, if I start investing today, then from tomorrow, that journey of 12% has to start. So 12, 12, 12, 12, it has to play out. Now, obviously, in the stock market, what happens is that in the long period, in 30 years, Sensex has given 12% compounded. But obviously, that 12 becomes sometime minus 20 and sometime plus 40. So, for you to get 12% compounded, sometimes the journey goes backwards also. It doesn't always go in a straight line. Now, how to explain this? I was thinking that, where else this happens? Because see, sometimes you can explain or understand things much better if you think in terms of analogies, if you think in terms of stories, if you think in terms of experience from a different field, then you may be able to understand better. So actually, in my early life, when I started my job, I've always lived. I'm one of those few people who still lives where he was born, which is not exactly the same house, but the same area. So when I started my career, I used to live in Goregaon. And for those of you who know Mumbai as a city, Goregaon is about 1 hour outside of Mumbai. So Prudential office used to be in Ballard Pier, which was called Victoria Terminus. Now it's called Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, right? So I had to take a train at say 7:30, 7:45, 8 a.m. in the morning and go to town. Nothing great. Most people in Mumbai do it. But Goregaon was one such odd place, where the train used to always come crowded because it's not the end and it's not the midpoint. I mean, it's somewhere in the middle as a suburb. Now it's a very famous place because all the MNC's headquarters are in Goregaon. But at that time, it was known only for tabelas of buffaloes which deliver milk, right? This is long back. It's basically known for cow sheds and, those kind of things. So I used to find it very difficult to get into a train and, reach town. So what I realized is that it's very difficult to get into a fast train from Goregaon. So maybe I should go early take a train which goes in the opposite direction. See, because the journey is finite, the trains used to go from Borivali to Churchgate. So instead of trying to go from Goregaon to Churchgate, if I came a little early and took a train which was going in the opposite direction, it would be very easy to get into the train. Second thing is, before it reached Borivali, you would be able to get a window seat. So you sit down, and then you obviously know where will the train go. I mean, it stops at Borivali, it will stop for 5 minutes. Ultimately, it is going to go back to Churchgate. So I used to do it. I used to do that quite often. That go early, take a train which goes opposite direction, settle down in a nice seat, and then it will anyway go to your ultimate destination, which is to go to town. And I wrote about it because, not to describe my way of going to office, but I wrote about it to explain that this happens in stock market all the time.
Wonderful. So, Ashish, ये बताइए, आप एक engineering background से हैं. You are from an engineering background, and then you joined ICICI, and you were not in the fund management team.
Ji.
How did you learn people management? Because as much as I know, engineers do not have people management skill because they have different kind of personalities. And then now you are in the management capacity for so long, and you manage a team of people. You have understanding of financial markets. You have understanding of human psychology, which has nothing to do with your engineering background. How did you travel this distance?
So, first thing is that if you actually see, there was one thing which I'll point out to you, which actually most people in my class who were engineers like me and then who did post-graduation in finance. The first thing is that most of the people like this, you mentioned I was not a fund manager or not in the investment team. So that's a thing which I want to highlight, that most people with my background actually become research analysts or they become fund managers. Because, if you are a chemical engineer and you studied finance, then basically you become very introverted, and you become very left-brained or number-centric kind of person. So that makes it difficult. But I was actually very early on, I realized that I am not so smart. See, because I found that there were many people who were fund managers, who were CA with rank, or they were IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Calcutta, IIM Bangalore. In my early life, I had a massive inferiority complex, big inferiority complex, and I used to think that I'm not capable of doing too many things. So यहाँ तक के मैं आपको example देता हूँ कि when I gave my entrance exam for my B school, I gave an entrance exam which is known as common entrance test, which means Mumbai University का आप exam दीजिए. So there are many institutes which follow the examination and the interview score. And then depending on your score, you will get into one of the institutions in Mumbai. Now, I did not write IIM CAT. I did not write CAT, XLRI. I did not write any of those exams because I thought कि ये तो अपने से मतलब it's beyond my capability. I didn't even write. I didn't even attempt. Okay. Now then what happened? And because in engineering, I was a bad student. I was not a good student actually. So because of that engineering experience, whatever, I was disturbed. Pune was like I was staying in the hostel. I was disturbed, whatever history. So I was a bad student. Because of that, and anyway, I told you I got an engineering job with some 3,000 rupee salary. So my expectation from my own life was actually rock bottom. So I did not write any CAT or anything. So when I wrote this Mumbai University entrance exam, I stood third in the state of Maharashtra.
Congratulations.
So I was surprised. I was like, "Arey, ye kaise ho gaya?" So then somebody told me कि भाई अभी आप ऐसा करो, आप CAT WAT लिख लो. I said, no, यार, my sister is paying for my education. एक साल मैं wait नहीं कर सकता हूँ अभी. I have to run the house. So I said, forget all this CAT and all. I took the admission. Now when I went into that, I realized I still thought that सब दुनिया में तो सब बहुत smart है. I was like a very inferiority complex kind of guy. So I was continuing with that thought. Even when I was doing my postgrad in finance, I thought that, in my class, everybody wants to join BCG and McKinsey. सबको fund manager बनना है, सबको analyst बनना है. तो again I thought कि अपना तो औकात है नहीं, मतलब अपने से नहीं होगा. So I went into sales. I thought कि किसी को interest नहीं है. Because see, everybody who's a chemical engineer and a postgrad in finance, they are fund managers. You see all the fund managers you speak to, that is their background. But I thought I am not so smart. So I actually did not get into it. I thought that, look, जो भी basic समझ में आता है ना कि अपना competitive advantage है कि नहीं इसमें, ये अपने से होगा कि नहीं होगा. And the whole crowd, my entire class, all the smart people, everybody wanted to go to this one. So I thought कि इसमें बहुत competition है, ये अपने से नहीं होगा, अपना number ही नहीं लगेगा इसमें. So I went into sales. Now, actually, if you see, in those early days, there were very few people like me in sales who used to roam around with a laptop and do all the engineering and the finance related, because all the smart guys were in fund management. There were very few people like me in 98, 99 who were technically qualified but doing sales. So I think that was one. And I'll tell you, I was underestimating myself and I had such a big inferiority complex. I'll tell you another joke. Somewhere in the year 2015, after 15 years of passing college and after 16 years of joining as a trainee, in 2015, I met a classmate of mine who is in a very senior position in a bank. So by then I had become a CEO. I became a CEO when I was 35 years and something. So after a couple of years, my classmate met me and she said, I'm so proud of you. I always knew you were very, very smart. अगर तुम मेहनत करते तो तुम्हारा 5th रैंक नहीं आता, तुम्हारा 1st रैंक आता. ऐसा इसने मेरे को बोला 2015 में. तो एक्चुअली मेरे को 2015 में I came to know that I was 5th rank when my college got over. I actually didn't know. because when you pass MBA, right? Who cares about the rank? I mean, अपना तो ये था कि बस पास हो गए, चलो बी स्कूल कर लिया. और मेरे को before my result came, I had got a job in Prudential ICICI. So because I was earning these stipends and paying the fees, तो मैं तो कॉलेज जाता ही नहीं था. So मुझे खाली ये पता था कि मैं पास हो गया. मुझे 15 साल बाद पता चला कि मेरा 5th रैंक था actually. So these kind of funny things have happened because I was not, not academically oriented. Although, so what has happened is that maybe like you were asking, how did the people skills and all that come? So I was not typically left-brained guy actually. I was not typically I used to underestimate myself and I was not a very, very studious person. But probably there were a few things I was understanding about the academics or about whatever the subject material was. And as far as leadership or people orientation is concerned, obviously this video my teammates are also going to watch, so I cannot lie and get away with it. I was not a very, very, I don't think I'm very, very good with it. I mean, of course, if somebody in my shoes has to be able to relate to people. So I really care for people and I really relate to them. And I think I've been taught over a period of time that people don't focus on what you say, people focus on how you say it.
Correct.
Now that is a continuous scope of improvement for me. In fact, at one point in time, I was quite abrasive. One of the places, in fact, one of my employers actually appointed a coach for me just to ensure that I'm not like a bull in a china shop. So I am tutored and coached. I can say it that way.
So you mean to say, I will pick up the last line that you say, Aashish, Sommaiyaa, brilliant journey, still needed a coach. How important is a coach for mutual fund distributors and other people, and if you want to grow your life?
Sir, actually क्या है, ब्रिजेश sir, actually क्या है कि लोगों को coach को लेकर के ना, people have a wrong impression or a wrong understanding of what coach does. See, theoretically, मैं बगावत कर सकता था that I have become a CEO. What coach are you talking about, right? But two things to learn. See, when I became a CEO, let us say on a particular X date, I became a CEO, right? But till that date, I was in my previous role. I was only a so-called successful sales head. See, the day I got a visiting card saying I'm CEO of this company, तो जिस दिन title आता है, उस दिन आदमी वो बन नहीं जाता है. Because till the previous day, you were just a successful or so-called successful sales head. The next day, somebody gave you a title, so that person has bet on you कि भाई चल तू ये कर सकता है. So the title comes first. You get into that. I don't know till now if I'm CEO or not, or it is still a journey, right? So that is one thing to keep in mind, that the title comes first. You step up. It takes a number of years for you to justify the title. That is, see, it's like this. You become a father when your son or daughter is born, but it takes a lifetime to become a father. So that is one. Second thing, on coach, आई थिंक कोच का बहुत बड़ा मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग ये है, लोगों को लगता है कि ये मुझे सिखाएगा क्या। सीखने का नहीं है, बेसिकली थर्ड पार्टी इज अ थर्ड पार्टी. What I learned is that anybody other than you who is capable to observe what you are
Yes.
doing as a bird's eye view,
Yes.
if they can observe what you are doing in a dispassionate manner, and they are themselves not part of the situation or the problem, meaning let us say there is a mutual fund distributor who is handling customers. Now, if there is a third party who is not a customer, not the distributor, not the AMC, not connected to that situation, but you are, let us say you are observing somebody from a distance. So by observing that, you can become a sounding board for that person. You can observe and he can say कि आप देखिए, आप ऐसे करते तो ये होता, आप ऐसे करते तो ये होता, आप ऐसे, why don't you try this? So coach is somebody who can be just a dispassionate observer of what you are doing. A coach is somebody who can dispassionately give you feedback that why don't you, meaning open multiple doors for you. राइट, कि आप ऐसे करोगे तो क्या होगा, ऐसे क्यों नहीं सोचते. सो आई थिंक पीपल हैव अ मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट कोच. आई थिंक दैट अ कोच इज नॉट समबडी हु विल जस्ट टीच यू. मतलब अगर मेरे लिए कोई कोच अपॉइंट करेगा, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि मुझे कुछ आता नहीं है. उसका मतलब यही है कि हाउ डू आई ओवरकम माई ब्लाइंड स्पॉट्स एंड हाउ डू आई इम्प्रूव माई, एनहेंस माई इफेक्टिवनेस. सो आई फील दैट the biggest of people, I mean, you may be president or prime minister, anybody will perform better with a coach, according to me.
Nice, very nice. So Ashish, every successful person says कि जब तक बंदा सक्सेसफुल नहीं होता है दुनिया की नजरों में, वो कहता है कि मैं बहुत अच्छा काम करता हूँ, बड़ा काम करता हूँ, मेरे में ये कैपेबिलिटी है. जब वो सक्सेसफुल हो जाता है, जब दुनिया उसको सक्सेसफुल मान लेती है, तो वही बंदा रियल टर्म्स में अपनी लाइफ को बोलता है कि मैं लकी हो गया, आई वॉज द लकी गाय. ही बिकम्स मोर हम्बल. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द सक्सेसफुल पीपल इंक्लूडिंग यू केमिकल इंजीनियरिंग के बैकग्राउंड से थे, कुछ नहीं आता था, अंडर एस्टिमेट करते थे अपने आप को, इंफीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स था, इंट्रोवर्ट थे, एंड फ्रॉम देयर यू हैव रीच्ड हियर एंड यू से अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट लाइफ वाज लकी बिकॉज आपको वो ब्रेक मिल गया, वहां से आप आगे बढ़ गए. बट क्या सिर्फ लकी होने से ही हो जाता है? हाउ डू यू बिल्ड अपॉन दैट?
See, I think जैसे नो आई से दिस टू इक्विटी इन्वेस्टर्स, मेरा हैंड ऑन हार्ट जेन्युइनली मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि इफ यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन इंडिया स्टॉक मार्केट इन द 2020s एंड द 2030s, यू आर इन द राइट प्लेस एट द राइट टाइम. एंड ये मैं एग्जांपल हमेशा देता हूं, लेकिन तो सी वॉरेन बफेट इज आस्क्ड वेरी वेरी ऑफन दैट मिस्टर बफेट व्हाट इज द सीक्रेट ऑफ योर सक्सेस. And like you rightly said, Mr. Buffett is also very rich, very successful, but humble guy. तो आपने भी पढ़ा होगा कहीं कहीं पे, he says that I was born in the USA in 1930, and then you know my investment journey 1950 1960 where US became a superpower. So he says that he was in the right place at the right time. अब क्या है, हम सब समझेंगे कि right place right time is luck. Lot of us are in the right place at right time. बट आप जान करके करें या आप बाय डिफॉल्ट करें या कैसे भी करें, इवन इफ यू आर इन द राइट प्लेस एट द राइट टाइम, बेसिकली यू नीड टू डू द राइट थिंग. सो राइट प्लेस राइट टाइम इज नॉट अबाउट लक, इट इज अबाउट डूइंग द राइट थिंग्स. अगर आप मूवीज देखते हैं, यू नो देयर वाज दिस मूवी कॉल्ड हेरा फेरी. इन दैट अक्षय कुमार टेल्स परेश रावल इज दिस आइकॉनिक कैरेक्टर कॉल्ड बाबू भैया. सो अक्षय कुमार ही टेल्स बाबू भैया, सो ही सेज कह रहे नहीं मैं ये नहीं करेगा. तो अक्षय कुमार टेल्स बाबू भैया दैट अरे लक्ष्मी जी आपको तिलक लगाने आ रही है और आप मुंह धोने की बातें कर रहे हो. तो लक्ष्मी जी जब ऐसे गुजराती में भी कहावत है कि लक्ष्मी जी जब तिलक लगाने आती है तो मुंह धोने नहीं जाया करते. So that's a phrase to explain that being in the right place at the right time, you still need to be doing the right things. So luck is important, but you have to give your luck a chance to work.
Correct. It's like, don't you think it's like, you know, कि आपने 2018 के बाद 19 में कोविड आया, कोविड के वर्स्ट पीरियड में आपने इन्वेस्टमेंट किया, वो आप लक हो सकता है कि आपके पास उसी समय फर्स्ट सैलरी आया, उसी समय बोनस आया और बाजार गिरा हुआ था, डाल दिया. That is being lucky, but you still have to work upon it to hold that investment for 10-15 years. That is hard work, and that can come only if you hold on that investment, because that early break will not work out if you book your profits very early and go away. So it's still hard work.
बिकॉज तभी तो दुनिया खत्म होने वाली थी, तो तब अगर आपने हिम्मत जुटाया और जैसा आप बता रहे हैं पैसा होल्ड करके रखा, तो यू डिजर्व ऑल द लक.
Right. So, Ashish, your journey in Motilal, I mean, I say it was a long back, so let's talk about Motilal. You took Motilal AMC to a new height. You gave a lot of visibility to Motilal. What made you, if I can ask you this, and you're free to answer this question the way you like it, what made you shift? Was this the craving of doing something else, the craving of starting a kind of a startup in this for White Oak, or what was it which made you shift from a successful CEO of a company which you became at 35 with the whole life in front of you? What made you make this career shift?
Yep. So actually, lesser known fact that it is my lesser known fact that I've always worked in very early environments and very unstructured environment. तो वैसे जब मैंने ICICI Prudential ज्वाइन किया तब तो मैं ट्रेनी था, तो I was not calling any shots, but that was also unstructured environment because that was very early days for the industry.
Yes.
ये इस तरीके के ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्ट्रक्चर, बिजनेस डेवलपमेंट टीम, प्रोडक्ट टीम, सेल, रिटेल सेल्स, इंस्टीट्यूशनल सेल्स, डिजिटल, ऐसा होता नहीं था. मैं मेरे बॉस थे, अभी भी मेरे बहुत करीबी दोस्त है, इज अ फैमिली फ्रेंड. ही वाज हेड ऑफ वेस्ट जोन, हेड ऑफ वेस्ट जोन. तो मैं उनको मजाक में बोलता था, सर आपको हेड एंड वेस्ट जोन लिखना चाहिए क्योंकि है क्या, इसमें कुछ नहीं है. तो बहुत अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड था ये. So I have always, so this is my fourth, when I was in ICICI also in 98, 99 as a trainee, it was a very unstructured environment. In 2007, lesser known fact, in 2007 I quit. I was a project manager for this French company called AXA. I worked there for 1.5 years. I was involved when they were getting license, when they were setting up, hiring, building the things, etc. In 2009, 2008 end, I joined back ICICI because at that time, a lot of people had quit ICICI and moved to another competing organization. So I was hired back to help in certain ways. Then I worked there again. So over 2 stints, I worked there for 12 years, but I have consistently worked in unstructured environments. And I like working in unstructured environments and giving shape to something. So, you know, working in an unstructured environment, building something, creating a strategy, creating a organization, that takes very different thought process as opposed to managing something which has been built. So if you really ask me, when I was invited, you know, or when I was called by somebody on behalf of Prashant, and then I met Prashant, who is the founder of White Oak Capital. There again, I got that sense that, you know, I can definitely contribute to building a new organization, because Prashant and the team here, whatever credentials, track record, credibility that they have, and they're very successful. It's one of the largest foreign portfolio investors investing into India in the last 4 or 5 years. So very successful in the global business. So I thought I could contribute to setting up the domestic operations. So if you count my career changes, if at all, I mean, largely I worked in 3 companies, but whatever changes have been there, each and every juncture, it has been about stepping into slightly new, unstructured environment, giving shape to a strategy or an organization. So I like to build in that way.
Sure. So I will request audience, if you have any question, please write it on the Q&A box. So after my questions are over, I will pick up and Aashish can some questions for you to answer them. Aashish, taking clue from the last answer that you gave, and this question I'm asking you on behalf of mutual fund distributors, and I want you not to be soft on this angle and give your experience. आप अपनी लाइफ में सेटल्ड थे, सीईओ थे, पूरी दुनिया आपकी मुट्ठी में, कि इसके ऊपर तो कोई पोजीशन होती नहीं है. उसके बाद फिर से आपने अपने आप को सेटल करते हुए भी अनसेटल कर दिया, और जिंदगी में ये रिस्क लिया कि पता नहीं हो पाएगा कि नहीं हो पाएगा. एंड एक सक्सेसफुल सीईओ से हो सकता है कि आपको समय लग जाता कि आप White Oak already is making head news, but you took a big chance that एक कंपनी को बना करके एक दूसरी कंपनी में आप गए, अपने आप को अनसेटल किया. लाइफ में आगे क्या होगा पता नहीं, और यहाँ एक म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर है, एक न्यूज आ जाती है तो वो अनसेटल हो जाता है और वो परेशान हो जाता है कि जिंदगी आगे कैसे चलेगी. डू यू हैव एनी मैसेज फॉर देम?
तो एक है ना, I'm quoting, जैसे आपने बोला coaches are important. I'll quote a very, very short story from one of the coach I listened to, and in fact, I had invited him for one of the distribution events also. And मैं आपको भी मिलाऊंगा अगर मुझे मौका मिले तो. But so he gave a very good example. See, he said like this. देखिए सुबह सुबह कभी क्या होता है, हम लोग कहीं स्टारबक्स कॉफी वगैरह जाते हैं, एक कॉफी आप एक ग्लास में लेके आते हैं. तो समझो कि आप एक कॉफी लेके आए गरम, और आप अपनी गाड़ी ड्राइवर का, यू आर वेटिंग फॉर योर कार एंड ड्राइवर टू कम, यू आर वेटिंग विद अ ग्लास ऑफ कॉफी इन योर हैंड. नाउ इट्स अ फुटपाथ, somebody comes running and gives you a dash. तो क्या होगा, आप बताइए क्या होगा?
कॉफी गिर जाएगी आपकी शर्ट पे, आपको आप गुस्सा
कॉफी गिर
करेंगे
जाएगी. हाँ,
कि शर्ट गंदी हो
कॉफी
गई.
गिर जाएगी, राइट? कॉफी गिर जाएगी. कॉफी क्यों गिरेगी?
कॉफी
क्योंकि ग्लास में कॉफी है.
ग्लास में कॉफी है.
अगर ग्लास में चाय होती तो क्या होता?
चाय गिरती.
तो चाय गिरती ना. सो व्हाट इज द लर्निंग? द लर्निंग इज दैट, समझो कोविड आता है, मार्केट 40% गिरता है, रेगुलेशन चेंज होता है, आपके टीम में कोई somebody quits and goes, all these things happen. तो आपके अंदर से क्या निकलेगा?
गुस्सा निकलेगा, एंगर निकलेगा, परेशानी निकलेगी.
तो जो आपके अंदर है वही निकलेगा ना. ग्लास में कॉफी थी तो कॉफी गिरी,
करेक्ट
ग्लास में अगर चाय है तो चाय गिरेगी.
करेक्ट करेक्ट करेक्ट
तो
करेक्ट. गुड.
आपके अंदर जो है वही गिरेगा ना पार. सो द पॉइंट इज दैट, ये जो ऐसा जो मुझे समझ में आया कि जो ब्रह्मांड है, वॉट एवर दिस प्लेस वी आर ऑपरेटिंग इन, इट इज मेंट टू कीप spilling your coffee basically.
Correct.
The whole question is how you respond to it. So you cannot control how many people are going to come and push you and how many people are going to spill your coffee. You can only control that after the coffee spill, how you are going to react to it. So this is something which was explained to me by someone. I only shared this, not my original idea. I only shared this because I am impressed by it and I try to follow it. And ऐसा, ये तो मैंने एक एग्जांपल के तौर पे बताया, but it is well known that you control the controllables. Don't try to control what you cannot really control. So I think it's very important that whatever happens, how we respond is the key thing. Now I'm only answering your question based on how I follow things. Please don't assume that I am some evolved, arrived person.
You have evolved. Of course you have evolved.
Just sharing what I follow.
Yes.
And see, if you ask me, some people have told me that I have, let's say for example, I'm not very, very risk averse person actually. जैसे आपने बताया that why would you start again? Why would you start again? Because I don't sleep every night or every morning thinking about ये नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा? What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? I actually don't lose sleep over those things. So for example, if I'm setting up, I have no reason to think that I will not be able to set up an organization or a business. The industry, the market, investors, mutual fund distributors, I have unshakable belief that this place is meritocratic. So I don't think of any other angle.
Brilliant. So Ashish, मैंने ऐसा देखा है, and please share your views on this. एक म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर जो शुरुआत करता है और 25 करोड़, 50 करोड़, 100 करोड़ का एयूएम बना लेता है. जब वो शुरुआत करता है तो उसको डर नहीं लगता, लेकिन जब उसका एयूएम 50 करोड़ हो जाता है, 100 करोड़ हो जाता है, जब उसकी इनकम आ जाती है, तब उसको डर शुरू हो जाता है कि ट्रेल कम हो जाएगी, बेसी हो जाएगी, रेगुलेटर कुछ कर देगा, मार्केट गिर जाएगा, क्लाइंट चले जाएंगे डायरेक्ट. उसको डर सताती है, उसको लगता है कि आगे क्या होगा पता नहीं. तो मेरा उनको ये कहना होता है कि यहाँ तक पहुंच गए, डर नहीं लगा, और इतनी कैपेबिलिटी थी कि आपने 0 से 50, 100 पे पहुंच गए, डर नहीं लगा. तो 50, 100 पे आने के बाद में आपको आगे का डर क्यों लगता है? तो जैसे आशीष सोमैया ने बोला, सीईओ बनकर के फिर से अपने आप को आपने अनसेटल कर लिया, रिस्क ले लिया, तो इसको आप कैसे आंसर देंगे फ्रॉम द म्यूचुअल फंड फ्रेटर्निटी एंगल, कि जो ऑलरेडी थोड़ा सक्सेसफुल है, उनको आगे की सक्सेस के ऊपर में डर लगता है, चेंज करना नहीं चाहते अपने आप को, पढ़ना नहीं चाहते, ग्रो नहीं करना चाहते, और हर समय डर के माहौल में जीते. सो व्हाट इज योर मैसेज?
See, I think 2-3 things you have to keep in mind. First is that, already देखिए, जो बफेट साहब का मैंने एग्जांपल दिया, अब ऑलरेडी 2020-2030 के जो दशक हैं, 2020, 2030, 2040, in these decades, if you are in India's capital market, you're already in the right place. So there are so many things. You could not have decided where you will be born. You could not have decided when you will be born, right? After winning all those battles, you're finally here. So first of all, you're already in a good position, which, most people would not be. I read Will Smith, Will Smith, very famous actor. I read his biography. In his biography,
Yes.
400 पन्ने की किताब है, मेरे को एक सेंटेंस याद है. In his biography, he says, if you are grateful, you can never be unhappy. Correct? So ये बहुत important लगा मुझे. Now the point is that people who are here, whether they are in my place, your place, or they are a mutual fund distributor, advisor, successful, I think the point is that 2030, 2040, 2050, you should not look back and regret कि भाई ये मौका मेरे से छूट गया. Because अगर 2022 में, जैसा आपने बताया, 100 करोड़ AUM वगैरह है, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि 2025, 30, 40, आपको अगला 10-15 साल के बाद ऐसा रिग्रेट नहीं होना चाहिए कि यार I already had a platform, I was already at this place, right? Because this is going to become very big. And in the Bridges sir, आपको पता है लास्ट 15-20 साल में भी यहाँ पे जो लोग बड़े थे, वो बड़े, मतलब I used to meet largest distributor 100 crore, now they are 4,000 crore, correct?
Yes.
So let's understand that this particular industry, whether it is my job or your job, this particular industry, it gives non-linear reward for just sticking in the same place.
Correct.
See, we think that the world is very challenging and there are a lot of changes, which is true, but our industry is a unique place. See, you are at least not a cricketer where every time you land on the pitch, it is a new match, right? You're not a film actor that you are as good as your last movie, right? You're not a doctor where every patient and every diagnosis is a new this thing, right? Here, what we did 10 years back, that also keeps rewarding us for the another 10 years. So what we should keep in mind is that our industry gives a non-linear reward for just sticking in the place and doing the same thing continuously. So I think that, next 10-20 years, this is going to just blow up into a humongous. It has already, last 10 years, the AUM has gone up like 10x, correct? Equity, I'm talking. This is in the next 10-20 years. It is, where India will become one of the largest economies in the world. Just imagine what will happen to the capital market.
Correct.
Just imagine if there is a large number of people who are going to go from poor to lower middle income and from lower middle income to middle income, and India is already a country with highest middle class and the highest billionaires. Imagine next 10-15 years, we are in the wealth management and money management profession. Imagine next 10-20 years, how big it can become. So I think that if you have arrived so far, excellent, congratulations. But next 10-20 years, it is going to be non-linear, it will be geometric. जिसका 100 करोड़ है उसका 2000 हो जाएगा, जिसका 2000 है उसका 20,000 हो जाएगा. ऐसे, and I can tell you right now also, people who listen to us, they must be thinking क्या बकवास कर रहा है. It's okay, it can sound like bakwas, there is no problem. We will meet in 10 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I would like to take this opportunity to ask you, how are you going to do things differently at White Oak? What is the vision of Aashish Sommaiyaa for White Oak Mutual Fund? And why should mutual MFDs look at White Oak?
See, I think I'm pretty clear that, 2 or 3 things. I think that, like I mentioned already, investors, mutual fund distributors and advisors, I have found that they are meritocratic. और पिछले 10-20 साल में industry has become more and more meritocratic. और इसका मैं आपको एक simple example देता हूँ that if you see, मैंने थोड़े समय पहले बताया कि equity mutual funds जो हैं, in last 10 years, the corpus has gone 10x, correct? But number of AMCs actually declined. Only this year some new AMCs have come. Otherwise, with mergers and acquisitions and a lot of MNCs going out, in 10 years when equity AUM went up 10x, the number of AMCs went down. Now, if I tell you that, sir, there is an industry which has grown 10x, but number of players has gone down, what you would assume? That the big guys would have become very big and the small guys would have struggled. But our industry is so unique. If you remove all this liquid and the EPFO, ETF, and all those things, if you look at pure retail equity, the industry has spread the AUM. The smaller people have actually got a lot of. There are many AMCs which 10 years back were not existing, are 50,000 crore, 30,000 crore, 1 lakh crore equity.
Yes.
So I've just given you long example with data to tell you that our mutual fund distributors, investors, they have all become meritocratic. And I can tell you White Oak is built on merit. It's the first asset management company which is founded by a professional fund manager and run by professionals. See, we are not a bank, a broker, insurance company, not even fintech nowadays. We are none of that. Our founder is Prashant. He founded White Oak 5 years back. He hired professionals like us. And what is his background? Before founding White Oak, he was CIO for Goldman Sachs Asset Management. He was a professional fund manager. So it's a company which is built by a professional fund manager, run by professionals. There are 36 people in the investment team for equities, which is the largest research team. And if you see Prashant's track record at Goldman Sachs, or if you take last 5 years of track record of White Oak itself, where some of the largest of global sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, endowments have entrusted us to manage money in India, I would say that our industry has become very meritocratic in last 10 years, and I think we are a company which is built on merit, with a very strong investment philosophy, process, track record, team of professionals. So I look at it this way that next 2 to 3 years, basically we are putting a basic range of products in place. We'll allow the portfolios and NAVs and all to take shape. And parallelly, we are now in 51 or 52 locations. So maybe in the next year or so, we'll be in 100 locations. So next couple of years, basically the idea is to put basic products in place, build their portfolios and track record, and parallelly build the distribution presence and the branches.
Lovely. So I will take some audience question. I have a couple of questions, and then I will leave it to some questions from the audience. Aashish, what do you do other than building businesses? What are your hobbies? Are you a workaholic?
No, I would say I used to be a workaholic. Maybe for a long point in time. But my son is 3 years and 3 months old. So I think other than my work, I really enjoy it. And frankly speaking, I actually never knew that kids can be funny. So I used to think kids are only responsibility. And I had all kinds of notions watching my nieces and nephews. But when my son is born, the most remarkable thing I've learned is that kids can be quite funny. So he's actually quite funny. He's quite an entertainer. So I try to spend time with him. But other than that, I travel 12 to 15 days in a month. And I've been traveling like this for many years. And I love traveling. And I'm not the kind of person who loves traveling, meaning for me, traveling is not going to go to Switzerland or Bali. I actually like traveling and meeting people. So I was introvert 22 years back, 25 years back, but now, I like meeting people. You must have, anybody who is here, they must have seen that there is no conference I ever miss. So I love traveling and meeting people. I love reading a lot, actually. I really love reading. And I like going out for meals. I'm a foodie, but not a heavy eater, but I am a foodie. So at the smallest possible opportunity, I like to go out and eat. Yeah, so I once in a while I love watching Bollywood movies. I love very old songs.
Very sure the way you gave the example of Hera Fairy,
Yeah, so most people don't know. Obviously, people in our industry will not know, but most people would not know. Like if you play a song from 1950, 1960, or 1970, you can count on me to tell you the lyrics.
Oh, so, my God. Wonderful.
I like old music. I like movies, and yeah, I enjoy spending time with my son, just observing how he does things.
So I have one last question from my side. And that question is, Aashish, you are loved by MFDs. People like to talk to you. People like to connect with you. And you are so approachable. And you also, as you said, you don't miss any conference. And I keep on watching your pictures of other MFDs with Aashish Sommaiyaa, with Aashish Sommaiyaa. You are there for everyone. And then you also command a lot of respect. And ask me, because I know this, from your employees, your ex-colleagues, and all those people talk very high about you. How do you manage to do this, being so approachable with MFDs, as well as command such high respect within the within your people in the AMC as well as the MFD? What is the secret of this high respect that you command?
So I mean, frankly, it is heartening to hear from you because very very heartening to hear this. Very grateful to people in our industry, my colleagues, the mutual fund fraternity, all the distributors, advisors, investors. So I like I said, I always believe that they are quite meritocratic and they have treated me fairly. So very very grateful for all this. And see, frankly speaking, all of us, our careers, whatever we do, we should be grateful because it is built by investors and it is built by the industry participants. So always very very grateful. But I think from my side, if you really ask me, what I try to do, two or three things. See, I personally feel that having a positive outlook is very very important because I hate complaining, frankly speaking. I never complain. I try not to complain. I try not to complain about anything. I try not to complain. Secondly, I think being in the stock market, I always say that equities are for optimists. And see whether, pessimism sounds very intellectual, but ultimately it's the optimistic people who make money for the other people, right? So I'm generally constructive. Generally, I try to approach things. And there is a fallout of this that I don't know people who know me or don't know that I find it next to impossible for me to say no to anything.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I cannot say no. I don't like to say no. Let me put it that way. I feel very, very pained to say no to anything or anybody. It's very, very difficult for me. So I think that some of those things might just reflect. I mean, I don't try to do anything deliberately. I like meeting people, so I go and meet people. The last thing which I would say is that I think that reading has helped me. See, because it's not that reading is helping me to become very very knowledgeable. Needless to say, I'm not the most knowledgeable guy, but I just feel that giving people perspective. I think that giving people perspective is very very important. See, ultimately everybody is looking. See, more or less, let's understand one thing, that whether it is our investor, whether it is our mutual fund distributors, whether it is all of us, whether it is our regulator, at a larger level, our goals are aligned. See, there is nobody who is investor wants to make money. The regulator wants us to make money for investor in a structured fashion. We want to serve our investors. We want to make money for our companies, our investors, ourselves, right? So structurally, our objectives are aligned. Now, in this, there are very minor things to really figure out so that the alignments can be done. So I like meeting people and I like to work constructively without complaining. So I don't try to do anything deliberately, but definitely I enjoy my work.
All right, so that is all from my side, Aashish. So what we will do now is that we'll take some question. You can also read the question from the Q&A, whatever you want to take. I will start. Viren Patel is asking, where will you take White Oak in the next decade?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people look at number one, number two, number three, league table, assets under management, market share. My learning is that these are all things which are outcome. What do I mean? Meaning that, see, मेरे बोलने से कुछ नहीं होगा. I can say whatever I like to say. I can just cook up something from my hat. But basically, if our performance is not there, if our transparency is not the highest order, and if people don't like to deal with me or my team, then I think, everything else is just going to be useless. So I can say what I will do, but I cannot say what the result will be. So if you really ask me, Prashant, who is our founder, and me, for example, as a team, what we would like to do is we would like to generate highest possible outperformance over whatever benchmark we pick. And second is, we run broad portfolios because we want to generate highest possible outperformance with low volatility of the alpha or low fluctuations. So one is to generate performance. That is what we would love to do. That is the prime criteria. And then the second is basically, I genuinely feel that people should like to deal with us. See, there will always be people who will have some good experience, not so good experience. Some people would be happy or unhappy with communication, pricing, service, many things. But what I feel is that, let us say that if you are unhappy with service, unhappy with performance, unhappy with pricing, let's say ऐसा कोई चीज हो गया unintentionally for whatever reason. If you like to deal with me, you will still tell me that, boss, this is the problem. But if you don't like to deal with me, then I think you will not even bother to say, you will say, "यार ये वैसे ही." So I think we can deliver performance, and second is we can make it nice to that you should like to deal with me. I think that is the key point. Because if you do, let's say we go to some restaurant, we go to some shop, sometimes we give feedback, sometimes we don't give feedback. We give feedback if we feel that गलती हो गया, लेकिन इसको बोलेंगे तो सुनेगा. And sometimes we feel कि ये आदमी useless है, इसको बोल के भी फायदा नहीं है. So I don't want to be कि इसको बोल के भी फायदा नहीं है. At least I would like to be someone who you don't mind dealing with.
Great. So Ashish, Abhishek Singh is asking maybe a brief answer. Please suggest your view on equity market currently.
See, I would put it very simply that right now our situation is that we have a beautiful house in a bad neighborhood. मतलब हमारा घर बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुल है, हमारे गार्डन तक सब बढ़िया है, बाहर दंगा फसाद चल रहा है. So I would say that next 3 to 7, I mean, if you ask me 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, even 1 year plus 18, 24 months, I would be very constructive. I think I have said ample number of times we are in the right place at the right time. And I already said this place gives you disproportionate reward for just showing up and sticking to what you're doing. But I think next 3 to 6 months, we will be seeing many ups and downs. It's just because market is making a new high, we should not get carried away. I think there will be many ups and downs. And till the time the external situation doesn't improve, we should not take anything for granted.
All right. So Priya is asking, we as MFD face a constant challenge of a successful fund manager of X AMC, then leaving and going to Y AMC. And some RM we are comfortable with changes the AMC and goes to some other AMC. This challenge remains always. So what is the suitable take we should take for this?
Yeah, I really, Priya is right. I don't have a great answer for it. And, I have been trying to explain to whoever I work with. Say, for example, you know me because I'm doing the same job since 20 years, correct? And definitely if I had changed lots of jobs, like, I have worked totally now 24 years, probably just the third company. So I think longevity in our field is extremely important. I don't know what to tell Priya, but I always tell people who are mutual fund professionals, for God's sake, please don't keep changing your jobs. Because I worked one company 12 years, one company 8 years. I've been with White Oak for more than 2 years now. So I definitely value longevity in a very, very big way, especially for people who are now comes to what should you do because these people are changing. See, I think as far as fund managers are concerned, I would say 2 things. My life learning is this, that, when people, when there is lack of, if you try to ascertain how deep the organization is, right? Like I mentioned that we have 36 people. Same way, we are not the only one. We have a large team, but you should figure out, see, basically how deep the organization runs, how deep the culture is embedded, that this is how money will be managed. I think those things you need to really, really find out. Don't bet on one individual fund manager, bet on the system, bet on the founder, the organization, and the overall system and culture. I think that you have to figure out. Directly, indirectly, I think you should be able to listen to the founders, listen to the fund managers, the CIOs, CEOs. Don't take word of one individual for this. So over a period of time, you will need to get comfort that how deep is this entrenched into their system. As far as relationship managers are concerned, I have been a relationship manager. I have been a salesperson for very long. The sad truth is that ultimately you are answerable to your investors. And ultimately it is the AMC and its performance which will matter to you, frankly speaking. So relationship manager changing and you having comfort, I know it is useful because you can get your job done. You can get the service of the highest order if you have comfort with people. But I think that since your prime responsibility is to get good returns for your investor, I think relationship manager changing, it's unavoidable. I always advise people to not change their roles. I never hire people who have changed lots of jobs, actually speaking. In my company, it is very well known that if the HR sends me a CV which has multiple job changes, I will not even interview that person. So I try to inculcate that in the people who work with me. I try to inculcate in the hiring. I don't think that I have not come across much of a choice. I have benefited by working long in one place. So that's the only thing I can say. But I think you should definitely try to understand what is the way the AMC operates, what's the culture, the team, how deep is it, how well are they bought into the processes. Because performance changes when macro parameters change. But is the approach consistent or not? That is the key.
Final question from the audience. We are running short of time. And this may be a difficult, but still I will ask you. Vedant Finserv is asking, should one get into mutual fund distribution or advisory from a 20-25 year time horizon from now?
I think that you should be a distributor. That is my opinion. Either you're a distributor, or once you become a large distributor, successful distributor, then you wrap your advice onto a PMS wrapper. I don't know how to explain this very simply. I think Vijayji can explain it much better. I know that you conduct sessions and you train everybody. I personally feel that you should either be a distributor, and if you want to be an advisor, see what are the challenges. When you give somebody advice, are they implementing the advice or not? Correct. Secondly, if you are very good at giving advice, right, you know that the advisory profession works well if there are people who are slightly affluent or HNI in the target audience. But the key point is that when you become a distributor who thinks you are very, very capable of advising people, then it's better you go a whole distance, take a PMS license, and deploy your advice through the PMS on a discretionary basis. Now, obviously, there are many nuances to this. Your first reaction will be everybody cannot be PMS manager, all customer cannot put money in PMS. ये बराबर है, लेकिन there is a way to do it. Maybe at some point in time, more elaboration can happen, but that is my view.
So, from my side, my final question, or I would like to ask you your observation about Masterstroke and your final message to the MFD community.
See, I think 2 or 3 things are there. First, I already mentioned that I have greatly benefited from having a coach. Second thing is that coach doesn't mean कि तुम क्या सिखाओगे मुझे. Coach is not supposed to teach you. Coach is supposed to show you the mirror. That is so my coach showed me the mirror, and my coach gave me suggestions suggestions or propositions or nudge, right? So my coach did not come and tell me तुम ऐसा करो वैसा करो ये करोगे तो वो हो जाएगा. So first is that everybody needs a coach. Second is coach is a mirror. Coach is someone who will make you think and do better. So I think that you're doing this for MFDC. I think what has happened is that 20 years back, a lot of hardworking people started. Now they arrived at a certain level. Sometimes what happens is that the pure momentum, the pure sheer hard work, that can get you to a level. But it's very well known what got you here won't take you there. So everybody needs a coach. So if they are aligned with Masterstroke, at least the first step they've taken is bang on. Because then I think you can make them think and you can make them excel. So I think that it's a fantastic platform, really, if you ask me. I have benefited from having a coach. So I would highly recommend that everybody should work with you closely. I'm quite sure that they will benefit out of it.
Thank you so much. Any final observation? One good advice you want to give to mutual fund distributor to break their shackles, grow bigger and bigger, very, very briefly.
No, I think that our market, our industry is set to explode. The Prime Minister, he said, our Honorable Prime Minister said, I think Independence Day and again Republic Day. There are a couple of speeches where he has said that Amrit Kal, next 25 years is the Amrit Kal. I genuinely don't think that it's a slogan. If you follow the economics, if you follow what is happening in geopolitics, it's not a slogan. I think we are going to immensely benefit from the economic growth and the prosperity. And there is no better, if you're directly hooked, directly plugged into the capital market, and there is no better place to be. So I think, just capitalize on, build on whatever foundation you worked hard last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever platform you got, capitalize on it. It's a great opportunity next couple of decades, if you really ask me.
Ashish, allow me to ask this question. I missed this, but I want to ask you this question. Is from money managers.
जी.
If you were given a choice to go back in the past and correct a mistake of life, which point in life will you go to? What was the mistake kind of?
No, so I am
Or a
actually
regret,
not.
or a regret.
I am actually, you will find it probably, allow me this, I am not just saying in a flippant manner, I actually don't regret anything.
Brilliant.
I'll tell you the reason for this. See, because क्या है कि हम अपने आप को इतना ग्रेट नहीं समझना चाहिए कि अगर ये होता ना तो मैं जरूर ऐसा कर लेता. ऐसा नहीं होता है. There is some larger forces at work. I am not fatalistic. I am not trying to quote destiny to you, but I think that there is no point in regretting anything. So I actually don't. Yes, definitely there will be some occasions. See, I would definitely regret some transactions that at a particular point in time, how did I react to this person? How did I speak to my mother? How did I speak to my sister? How did I speak to my friend or my colleague or one of the employees or someone? One definitely regrets certain behavior or certain transaction. But in terms of the major decisions or the flow of life, I would not go back and change anything.
Wonderful. It was wonderful to have you, Ashish, with us. I personally learned a lot, and having known you, every word that you spoke and every answer that you gave was right from your heart. And you are such a genuine person. All the very best to you and Vitalk team and Vitalk company as a whole. And we are definitely very sure that it will go distance. I think the MFD community will be with you and Vitalk. Thank you so much for being with us at Masters.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.